Henry Cavill didn't just play Geralt of Rivia. He owned the character's DNA. That brutal stoic silhouette defined an entire era of fantasy TV. His low, gravelly voice became the gold standard for the White Wolf. And when he left, he took a piece of the character with him. Now Liam Hemsworth is stepping into the wolf's shadows. And everyone's asking the same question. Can a softer, more emotive Witcher actually survive the continent? Today we're breaking down the massive shift that no one's talking about. We're not just comparing actors. We're talking about how a single recasting changes the entire DNA of the show. From combat rhythm to screen presence to the very soul of Geralt of Rivia. And I'm going to show you exactly what we lost with Henry and what we might gain with Liam. Part 1. The Ghost of the White Wolf. Let's start with the elephant in the room. Henry Cavill was Geralt. Not because he was the best actor. Not because he looked the most like the book character. But because he understood the core of who Geralt is. Geralt is a man who has seen too much. He's killed hundreds of monsters. He's watched everyone he loves die or leave him. And he's learned that the only way to survive is to shut down, to become a wall, to show no emotion. That's what Henry nailed. That stoic cynicism. That quiet pain that never quite breaks through. He didn't need to say much. A single grunt. A slight raise of an eyebrow. That was enough to tell you everything you needed to know. And let's talk about that voice. That specific vocal fry. That low rumble that sounds like gravel in a bucket. It became iconic.
You tell that fuck Amir, no matter his walls.
You hear that voice and you instantly think Geralt of Rivia. Then there's his physicality. Henry brought this tank-like presence to the screen. He was broad. He was heavy. He moved like a man who had spent his entire life swinging a sword. When he walked into a room, everyone shut up. You could feel the weight of every monster he's ever killed. Every mistake he's ever made. That silhouette defined the show's early visual identity. Geralt wasn't just a monster hunter. He was a force of nature, an immovable object. And that's what made him so compelling. Now he's gone. And we're not just losing an actor. We're losing that entire energy, that quiet power. That sense that Geralt has seen it all and nothing can surprise him anymore. And that's a huge hole to fill. Part 2. Hemsworth's kinetic shift. Now let's talk about Liam Hemsworth. The first thing you notice is that he's not Henry. He's leaner. He's taller. He's more agile. And that changes everything. Henry fought like a brawler. He was slow. He was heavy. He took hits and kept going. His sword swings were brutal and efficient. He didn't do fancy moves. He just killed the monster as quickly as possible. Liam fights like a fencer. He's fast. He's fluid. He dodges attacks instead of taking them. His sword swings are light and precise. He moves around the battlefield like a dancer. This is a massive shift in combat rhythm. And it's not just a visual change. It changes who Geralt is as a character. Because if Geralt is fast and agile, then he's not a tank anymore. He's not an immovable object. He's a survivor, a wanderer, someone who has to outthink his opponents instead of just overpowering them. And look at the new costume. They've completely redesigned it to fit Liam's body. It's tighter. It's more flexible. It emphasizes his height and his range of motion instead of raw bulk. The old costume made Henry look like a walking tank. The new costume makes Liam look like a hunter. This changes how Geralt occupies space. In the old seasons, when Henry walked into a tavern, everyone moved out of his way. He took up the entire room. With Liam, he'll blend in more. He'll be quieter, less intimidating at first glance. Is that a bad thing? Not necessarily, but it's different. And it's a huge departure from what we've come to expect from the White Wolf. Part 3, a softer edge to the silver sword. But the biggest change isn't physical, it's emotional. Henry's Geralt was a man of few words. He grunted more than he spoke. And when he did speak, it was usually a sarcastic one-liner or a dry observation. Liam's Geralt is different. From the footage we've seen, he talks more. He smiles more. He shows more emotion. His line delivery is more expressive, more human. On one hand, this could be a good thing. The later books have a lot of complex political intrigue. A more communicative Geralt could actually explain what's going on instead of just standing there looking brooding. He could have deeper conversations with Yennefer and Ciri. He could show the vulnerability that's always been under the surface. But here's the risk. The continent is a brutal, unforgiving place. If Geralt is too soft, too emotional, he loses that edge that makes him so compelling. He becomes just another generic fantasy hero. And let's be real, a big part of Geralt's appeal is that he's the strong, silent type. The guy who doesn't show his feelings but would die for the people he loves. If you take that away, you take away a huge part of what makes him special. The writers are walking a very fine line here. They want to make Geralt more relatable, more human, but they risk turning him into someone we don't recognize. Someone who doesn't belong in the brutal world of The Witcher. And here's the thing no one's talking about. Henry's grunts weren't a flaw. They were a feature. They were a way to show that Geralt has been through so much that words don't matter anymore. If Liam replaces those grunts with full sentences, he loses that history. That weight. Part 4. The chemistry of the new continent. Now let's talk about chemistry. Because a recasting doesn't just change the main character. It changes every single relationship in the show. Henry's Geralt had this amazing dynamic with Anya Chalotra's Yennefer. They were both stubborn, both closed off, both terrible at showing their feelings. Their love was quiet, full of unspoken words, and that's what made it so real. With Liam, that dynamic will be completely different. If Geralt is more open and expressive, then Yennefer will have to change too. She can't be the only one fighting her feelings anymore. Their relationship will be more verbal, more emotional, less tense. And then there's Ciri. Henry's Geralt was a father figure who showed his love through actions, not words. He never said, "I love you," but you knew he felt it. Liam's Geralt will probably be a more vocal father. He'll talk to her more. He'll comfort her when she's upset. He'll tell her he loves her. And that's not a bad thing, but it's a different kind of father-daughter relationship. There's also a chance for new chemistry here. Liam's energy is different. He's warmer, more approachable. He might have better banter with the supporting cast. He might make the group feel more like a family instead of a bunch of strangers thrown together. But there's also a risk that it will feel forced, that the new dynamic won't live up to the old one, that will always be comparing Liam and Henry in every single scene. Part 5, Defining the Future of The Witcher. So where does this leave us? Is Liam Hemsworth going to save The Witcher? Or is he going to be the final nail in the coffin? The fan reaction so far has been mixed. A lot of people are still mad that Henry left. A lot of people think no one can replace him. But there are also people who are excited for a fresh start, who think that a new actor might actually bring us closer to the book version of Geralt. The book's Geralt is actually more emotive than Henry's version. He talks more. He feels more. He's not just a grunting tank. So in a way, Liam's interpretation might be more accurate to the source material. But that's the problem. We spent 3 seasons with Henry's Geralt. We've grown to love his version. Even if it's not 100% book accurate, it's the version we know and love. Netflix is taking a huge risk here. They could alienate the entire core fan base. The people who have been watching since season 1. The people who loved Henry's performance. But they could also win over new fans. People who never got into the show because they thought Geralt was too cold and unemotional. At the end of the day, it all comes down to one thing. Can Liam Hemsworth make us forget Henry Cavill? Can he make us believe that he is Geralt of Rivia? It's not going to be easy. He has huge shoes to fill. But if he can pull it off, if he can find that perfect balance between brutality and sensitivity, then he might just save The Witcher and give us the adaptation we've always deserved. The Witcher is at a crossroads. This recasting will either make or break the show, and we're all going to be watching to see which way it goes. So tell me in the comments, are you excited for Liam Hemsworth's Geralt, or do you think no one can replace Henry? And what do you think is the most important thing about the White Wolf's character? Let's talk about it. And if you like this breakdown, hit subscribe for more deep dives into your favorite fantasy shows. I'll see you in the next one.